Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wonder Series. Yes, it is Wonder Series Wednesday. Today is March the 9th. It is already the third month of 2022. And I'm wondering if you have been on track to reach your goals. Have you created your mission? Do you know what your purpose is? For those of you who do not know me, I'm Denise Stiegel. I'm the CEO and curator at Living Healthy List and your host for the Wonder Series. So, what the heck is the Wonder Series? The Wonder Series is your weekly opportunity to think outside the box, to open yourself up to the possibilities and the opportunities that are just outside your door if you open yourself up to them. Who would you be? What would create? And ultimately, how could that help you live that healthy, happy lifestyle that works for you and absolutely allow you to flourish in life? So today I am going to have an amazing conversation. You're going to love my guest, Aura Martinez, Aura E. Martinez. She is a recurring guest here on the Wonder Series for her insight, her inspiration, and her true fun and wit. And she's just such a joy to be with. So Aura she's a self-discovery and empowerment coach and the creator of the Aura Blueprint that she uses to help women gain total clarity in their purpose. Purpose. So Aura, welcome, my dear.
Thank you for having me again. Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure.
Oh, it's always a joy. So, Aura, I know who you are. I know what you do, but please share with our audience a little bit about you and your journey and how you got to become a self-discovery and empowerment coach. Because that word empowerment is so important, especially when it comes to women, because it's not something that we think we can do on our own.
Yes. Well, as you all know, I'm a self discovery and empowerment coach, and I help women gain total clarity as to their purpose so that they can wake up to daily fulfillment and certainty. I think, especially nowadays, with everything that's going on, is one of the things that may be lacking that daily fulfillment and certainty. What got me onto this path is that I actually started out as a wellness and life coach, helping people get out of the sugar roller coaster. And through my client's journey, as well as my own, I realized that the problem that many times we have that doesn't allow us to choose the right foods, that doesn't allow us to release the weight. It's not necessarily that we need a meal plan and exactly what to work out. I mean, there's an abundance of resources out there, but rather there's something deeper going on. In that case, is that we have a relationship with food that isn't healthy and a relationship with our body that isn't healthy. And all of it, if you think about it, it all stems with the relationship that we're having with ourselves. And it was then that I understood that if only we were to get to the core of who we really are, we can literally simultaneously change several areas of us and our life because we're getting to the core of who we really are. So that's what made me transition to being a self discovery and empowerment coach.
You said something that was really important, that you can work on several things at once when you're focusing on this one thing, because so often we hear focus on one thing at a time. But your perspective is slightly different than that, and I think that's really exciting.
Yes. When you place mainly the focus on you, meaning you're working on yourself, meaning you get to always understand yourself deeper and deeper, meaning that you get curious about what's going on in your inner world. By default, by default, you will be working on several things at the same time because how we do one thing is how we do everything.
Mhm.
So if you notice that it is challenging for you to do something in a particular area of your life, if you look very closely, I'm pretty sure that that same difficulty that you have in that one area is a reflection of how you're feeling about yourself, a reflection of how you're viewing yourself and your life and your capacity. And most likely, that's the same kind of relationship you're having with some other area of your life. I'm a big believer that the best focus for us to have is on ourselves. And I know that may sound like all selfish, but there has to be a healthy degree of selfishness in
Mhm.
order for us to live life on purpose and with purpose. And only from that place are we able to serve others greatly.
Very true. And it's interesting because as women, we do think that when we focus inward, when we focus on ourselves, we are being selfish. Yet as children, we don't think of it. We think the world revolves around us when we're children. And it's about us and how we feel and our needs. And so it's kind of interesting how, as we grow up, we grow away from that. And we get to a certain point where we're unhappy. We're living this kind of life by default, not by design, as we say in the business. And then do you find that something happens, to someone to say, okay, enough? And that's when they come to you for help.
Yes. Well, one of the biggest mistakes that and we all make it. I know I've made it too. By the way, I loved how you used the example of us children, right? Because we need to start going back to a lot of the ways that we had back when we were children. Anyways, going back to your question, we tend to wait until we can't take it anymore. We tend to wait until we are about to have a breakdown. You don't need for none of that to happen. The moment you notice that something in your life just isn't the way you want it to be, the moment you notice that you're doing all this work and just something isn't clicking, that's the best time to hire someone. That's the best time to
So
look for
true.
someone. And so most of my clients, of course, they wait until I can't take it anymore. And it's like, it's like, okay,
Mhm.
that's good. And probably some people, they need to either fall flat on their feet for them to realize, oh my gosh, I really need help. But you don't need to wait until you get to that point. It never needs to be that way.
Doesn't need to be that drastic. And I think you're right. I think most women will push it to that degree. So, as a empowerment coach, I'm sure one of the things you talk about, coming back to self. We've been talking this month at Living Healthy List about our mission, our purpose, and our goals, and how that can help us to achieve resiliency in our lives. So, the first thing I'd like to ask you is, what does resiliency mean to you? And how does that kind of work itself into your program and what you do when you're working with clients?
Yes. When I think of the word of resilience, I think of groundedness. I think of those strong trees that no matter how much wind there is, yes, the tree may move a little, but it's able to stay grounded. It's able to still stand, right? Even when the leaf starts coming off, it's still able to stand. And it's so important as human beings that we learn to be like the tree. But see, for the tree to be that strong, it first grows roots,
Mm-hmm.
very long roots. Why am I using the word roots, and what does this even mean when it comes to you, when it comes to us? You need to be so grounded in who you are. You need to get so deep in your knowledge of yourself. What makes you tick? What makes you trigger? Why does it? What lights you up? What sucks the life out of you? Right?
That's important.
That's important too. The more, as a matter of fact, this just came to mind right now, something that you said. We need to go back to really getting that the world really does revolve around us. Now, let me clarify because this is very important. If you want to live your most purposeful life does not start with something outside of you. It first starts within, right? It first starts within. It starts with you having a deep understanding of who you are, you getting an awareness of what are your blind spots, you understanding, okay, this is how I am. Because when you get that deep in who you are, and you remove those layers that has been standing in the way, because there are times that we're not living from a place of groundedness. We're living from some kind of layer, whether that is a story, whether that is a belief, whether that is a conditioning. There is no way you can build resilience when you're living from any layer. You will know by the way that you feel. You will know by the choices that you make that in the long run, they're not good for you. Your out of life, it just reflects what's going on within. So if you really want to get resilience and you really want to start living on purpose and with purpose, it is so important to go back to what your world really revolves, which is around you.
I love that. Everything you just said, starting with the trees. So often when people talk about resilience, we talk about this rubber band. And what I always think about the rubber band is it's changed. Like, yes, it kind of goes, you can stretch it and it kind of goes back, but it's not quite the same. It may not have the same amount of stretch, but the trees, you're right, they kind of move and they sway, but they're still there and they're solid. They haven't changed. And I think it's important because that is your core. You are who you are at your core, and that doesn't change.
Yes.
We may not know who we are. That may be the issue.
Yes. You just hit it in the nail. You just hit it in the nail. And the thing is, when we don't know who we are, that creates so many issues in our life. One of them is, and this just came to mind right now, when you constantly feel the need, I need to belong, even though it's clearly not where you're meant to be, but I need to fit in this shoe. I need to. When you have a knowing of who you are, the outside world doesn't phase you as much. Oh, that's so important, especially nowadays.
That is so true. And that is actually something too that as adults, even when we know that, sometimes we still want to fit in with the group, whatever the group is. And I'm really glad that you said that, because too often we do want to fit in, and even knowing that it doesn't quite fit our, who we are, and suit our purpose. And one of the things that I've noticed with myself in doing that in the past is even fitting in and being there, wherever there is, whether it's a meeting or a group. Once I'm there, I don't feel like I fit in.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is an important lesson learned.
Of course. And there's so many examples of it. When we're making a decision, it's so important that we understand, is this a decision that I at my core want to make? Or is it something else that's making me make this decision? If you don't mind, I'm going to be sharing this example. And this all ties to you living on purpose and with purpose, right? Because there's times that we may look back and we're like, I don't even know why I made this decision. This doesn't really make me happy. Well, if you really take a look, where did that decision come from? For example, my culture, my parents are from Dominican Republic. The moment you're in your 20s, you get asked, okay, so when are you going to have kids and when are you going to get married? No, no, no. The pressure, the culture, this is just an example, right? But this applies to, it could be any example, right? The pressure, and I'm not going to lie, for a good while, decades, that almost a decade, I
Understand that.
I felt the pressure. Oh my God, I'm going to need to find a guy and form a family. And for the longest time, I had this illusion. Probably there was a part of me that really wanted that. However, not all of it was me. You get what I mean? And
I absolutely do.
when you don't dismantle all these things that gets put upon us, we end up living a life that isn't really our own, but it's just to fit in. And there is no way you can build resilience from that place.
That is so true. That is so true. And I completely relate to what you said about, finding somebody and getting married and having a child. And I went through that myself. And it's funny. There are still times when people will ask me, well, when are you going to have children? I'm 50 years old. I think that boat has sailed. But because it's out of the norm for other people, like you say, kind of living other people's expectation. Maybe it is the norm. That's just what people do. And I kind of wonder now that we're talking about this, is it really what we or they want?
Yeah.
So coming back to your core, let's talk about coming back to your core. And how does one, when your clients come to you, how do you help them figure out who they are? Because I know there was a time in my life when I didn't know who I was, what I liked, what I wanted. And there was a movie a bunch of years ago with it was called Runaway Bride with Julia Roberts, and she had gone through this similar thing. And the question was, what kind of eggs do you like? And she didn't even know the answer to that question. And I resonated with that because I went through a bit of that myself. So when people come to you and they say, or I don't even know who I am, what's your first step with them?
I have a process that I guide my clients through, which you already mentioned. Is called Aura Blueprint. Yes, it has my name for a reason, because every letter of my name has a step. It represents each step. So I always start with, we're going to assess. And hear me out here, because the
I love it.
logic, even though it may seem like, what does this have to do with who I am? You have to start here because you have to start from somewhere. So we're going to assess where they are now, where they would like to be, and what needs to occur in order to close that gap.
Mm-hmm.
This is super important. Now, once they decide to work with me, we take it a step further. Just like the pilots, before every flight, they know what city they're at. They know where they're going to land. They have the flight map. They have to make sure that plane is good for the journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the same thing with the clients, because many times we say we want something, but we're not ready for it. And why is this and why is this very important? Because from there, you're going to start knowing, okay, do I really want this? Do I really, really want this?
Mm-hmm.
The you in the Aura Blueprint is for understand. We're going to understand what has kept them blocked or parked, as I like to say, all this time. Why they didn't go to the runway yet, right?
I love that analogy. I love that.
Yes. And this is where the transformation starts. This is where many times my clients realize, oh my God, probably I don't really want that. I thought I did, but I didn't. Oh gosh, I didn't see this about myself. So this is why this process is very important. It's not just enough to understand to have that flight map. That flight map is good, but it's not enough. You really want to get deep, right? So that's when you start uncovering those layers that cover who it is that you are.
Mm-hmm.
Once that happens, the R is for realign. We're going to realign all parts of you. Why is this so important? There are times that the reason why we keep falling back into that cycle that we're in is because we still have not yet identified with the real essence of who we are. Because we're so accustomed to the story that we lived in. We're so accustomed to that limiting belief. And so when we do not get to a point where we realign with that vision, right? Mm-hmm. When we do not get to a point where we realign with who it is that we really are, when we don't get to a point where we can see ourselves clearly, the chances of you falling back to those old habits, to the old conditioning, to the old story, they are a lot higher. Yeah. So you need to realign with your vision. And then the last A is for aliveness, because
Aliveness.
because that is what they experience when they see that their outer world matches their inner world, because that's the key. It has to be a match, because otherwise we could be doing all the work and we could be on the verge of receiving that which we want, but because we inside are not internally ready, guess what? The opportunity arrives, you miss it. You miss it. This needs to be worked on first.
And I talk about opportunity, opening ourselves up to that opportunity, because opportunities come our way all the time. We may not recognize them. And I think that's what we just talked about. It's like, they may come your way. You may not be ready. You may not even understand that you have an opportunity because you have not really connected with who it is you are and really ready for it. So that's interesting, that you really do have to work from here. I always hear, this is your heart, this is your core. Solar plexus. I think that you've kind of wowed me. And it's funny when you said aliveness, I thought, oh, well, yeah, because, I see that in you. I see the aliveness. I see the passion. And the alignment in who you are because of the way you speak, the way you feel when you speak. And I believe that comes from knowing who you are at your core.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it really comes through.
Oh,
And
thank you.
well, absolutely, my friend.
There was so much work that I had to do within. There was so much releasing, and this is the reason why I can speak the way I speak. And it's when we do that release and we're able to see our life very clearly and ourselves very clearly. I want people to know this. I know what it's like to feel stuck, or at least to think you're stuck.
Ooh.
And yeah, to think, because there are times we're stuck, but we're not really stuck. It's that we think that we're stuck. And that too is a layer, right? So you choose what glasses you want to wear. And so the reason why I can share what I share and I can do what I do is because I do this work all the time, even on my own self. I even use my own methodology on my own self. So I get it. I get it.
Well, that's how you know it works.
Yes. Yes.
And I think it's important to note that, this isn't something that you do once and you're done.
No, it's not.
It's something that you're always moving towards.
Yes.
So getting to know who we are at our core, that gives us purpose.
Yes.
What is it about? I mean, is it having personal goals, professional goals? What is it? What else? What is it about goals that helps us with this resiliency piece, this being able to come back like the trees, like kind of come back to center? How do goals help us?
Well, once you know what your true desires are or goals, and once you turn them into a vision, oh gosh, this is key. The reason why they need to be turned into a vision is because a vision is very different from a goal. It is not something that you would like to have. It is not a want to have. It is I am. It is I feel. It is I do. I'm doing everything I'm doing because this is my vision. And so when you have a vision, what it does is you know what your non-negotiables are.
Yep.
To me personally, and I travel every week, so I'm always jet lagged. To me, it's a non-negotiable to get good sleep. It's a non-negotiable for me to eat right. It's a non-negotiable for me to mind my energy. It's a non-negotiable for me to maintain my vibe, right? Because otherwise, how can I do everything that I'm doing? So when you have a vision by default, when you know what do you want, and you have to have a healthy vision. This is so important. What is a healthy
Mm,
vision? It is where everything in your life complements. Many times, and I made that mistake. Oh, my goal is to make X amount in my business. But in the process, I wasn't eating right. In the process, I wasn't working out. In the process, I wasn't taking care of myself. So, what kind of purpose is that? You want to make sure you have a healthy purpose.
mhm,
And from there, how that gives you resilience. Well, if I know what my day looks like and I know who I am,
mhm.
everything else falls in the wayside. Oh, I'm feeling this fear. Oh gosh. Okay, Aura, yes, I love you. Yes, we're gonna do this. With okay, now let's keep it moving, right?
Mhm,
So it just your vision is your fuel.
mhm.
When you have fuel, by default, you're gonna have resilience because you're gonna do what it takes to get where you want to go.
It just always brings you back to
Yes.
what it is. And I think what's really exciting about this conversation is it's not about a business, it's not about a career, it's not about all those other things. And I think that's what most of us think our vision and our mission and our purpose is supposed to be, is something out there. And you mentioned it earlier about everything being from within. So I think it's just important to note again that everything we've talked about still comes back to who we are
Yes.
here and knowing who we are. And as opposed to being who somebody else wants us to be or doing what society expects of us.
Oh, yes. Or keeping up with the Joneses or trying to appear something that you're not. No, no, no. Always
Mhm.
take it back to you. It all comes back to you. And make sure you have a healthy purpose. Healthy purpose meaning that everything complements one another because everything is a domino effect, right? When you can remember that, that is going to allow you to know what your non-negotiables are. That is going to guide you. That is going to take you back whenever you get a disappointment, whenever you get a no, whenever you get this. Wait, what is my vision? Oh, no, no, no. This is why I'm doing everything I'm doing. And that's going to pick you up. That's going to be your fuel.
I love that. That is amazing. I'd like for you, as we're pushing time here, so I'd love for you to tell us, how does somebody listening, what's the first thing that they need to do today in order to take that first step?
I would say I always like to start with be curious.
Mm,
Get
mhm,
curious because when you lean into your curiosity, to me, curiosity is the start of transformation. Sometimes we think it's something huge. No, start with curiosity because that curiosity is going to lead you to what your next step needs to be. And then what the next step needs to be, and then what the next step needs to be. So get curious about what you love. Get curious about what lights you up. Get curious. You're curious about what Denise does? Go check her out. You're curious about what I do? Go check me out. So, curiosity is the start
mhm.
of transformation, it's the start of everything.
I so appreciate that because that's one of the things that I feel as people get older, we stop being curious. We and you and I are kindred spirits when it comes to travel. Um, I am who I am. I'm a better person. I'm a better person here because I travel and I'm always curious about how other people live and how other people, how their communities work compared to mine. I live in a pretty small community. Even though I'm from New York originally, I've lived in a small community for the last 17 and no 18 years. So it's always interesting that I keep that curiosity going. It's something that's really important to me. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that. And I think it's truly you've said lots of things here today. Look, I've got a whole page of notes that are really really truly amazing. Sometimes we talk about, in our health and wellness world, we kind of talk about the same things. You bring things up into or bring things to a different light. It may be a similar concept, but the vision that you have and the analogies you use are so uplifting. So I think everyone is going to really appreciate listening to this replay. Aura, I know you have a book that's out. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about the book, where people can get that book, and then also how they can connect with you.
Yes. Are you referring to the latest book where I'm a co-author? Because there's like several books I co-authored lately.
That's the last. Yes. Well, tell us about them.
Yes. One of them is called The Art of Connection, and it is 365 days of inspirational quotes, prompts, and things for you to read where you're going to learn from different experts. And then the other one is called Unstoppable, Being Fierce in Life and Business. And of course, you will learn from me and from other experts. You will gain tools. And those two books you could get in Amazon.
Wonderful. So I will make sure that in our show notes that we have the names of the books and that where people can get them. Or if you have a link, please email that to me so we can add that to the show notes. This has been a fabulous conversation. I knew it would be. I love talking with you and truly appreciate your insight and your wisdom. I think everyone needs an aura in our life. And I'm really grateful that I have you in mine. So thank you.
Oh, I am so grateful to have you in my life too. So thank you.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, for those of you who are listening, thank you for listening to us and joining us on the Wonder Series. We are here every week on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. You can catch us live on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also catch our replays on Anchor, Google, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And finally, check us out on the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group app. You can find more about Living Healthy List and the Wonder Series there. So thank you again, everyone. Until next week, I leave you with this: healthy living, happy life. Have a great day.